Hello, my name is Sammy Hobson. I'm the Channel Business Manager at Turnitin, presenting from the UK with my colleague Jamie today. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Pan-Hellenic Conference organizers for giving us this opportunity to present. As some of you may know, Turnitin and HealLink renewed our partnership for the next 3 years, with 3 more institutions that started participating this year. We also have a strong relationship with Cyprus Academic Library Consortium, and I would like to continue building our relationships going forward. 2020 has been a somewhat challenging year for all of us. Many of the schools, colleges, and universities had to switch from classroom-based teaching to online, or in some cases, hybrid models. Some people are predicting that how we work, socialize, and study may not go back to how we used to post-pandemic. Then how can we equip ourselves for that challenge? How can we best support our students and educators to take them into the next level? Many people may recognize us Turnitin as a plagiarism detection tool. Our products address not just text similarity or contract cheating detections, but also support online assessments and code similarity checking and so much more. As many institutions have started to look for ways to deliver remote assessments while maintaining the academic integrity with options such as proctoring. Today, I would like to draw your special attention to Gradescope, and I will hand over to my colleague, Jamie.
Hi, and welcome to this presentation where I'll talk about some common challenges when delivering remote assessment and how to overcome those using Gradescope. So for those of you who are new to Gradescope, it's an assessment platform that's offered by Turnitin that helps you digitize your exams and your assignments, as well as helping you streamline and modernize the grading process. My name is Jamie Whitehead, and I'm a product success manager for Gradescope. I work across Europe, Middle East and Africa to help institutions and instructors within the region be successful with Gradescope. My role involves meeting with users, helping with trainings and spreading the word about Gradescope in presentations like this. I previously worked as an account manager for a number of years with UK universities, so I've got a lot of first-hand knowledge of some of the challenges that institutions face when assessing student work. So this is the agenda for today. So we'll start by looking at what are the main challenges when grading assessments. We'll take a look at what's changed due to COVID-19, and then we'll take a look at how can Gradescope help address these challenges. So I'll start by discussing some of the common challenges that instructors and students face when they're grading assessments or receiving their work back. Most of these challenges were experienced widely before COVID, and we have seen additional ones emerge more recently as everything's quickly moved online. And I'll delve into those emerging challenges later in the presentation. Also, just so that we're all on the same page, when I'm talking about assessment, I'm referring to any measure that an instructor takes to get a gauge of where the student is in their learning journey, what skills they've mastered, and what they're still struggling with. So one of the most common challenges that I hear about is that consistency can be difficult when grading work. So from an instructor perspective. So when grading papers over many hours, we often hear that it can be a roller coaster of a journey, especially if you have to put in extra time and it eats into the marker's personal time, which can then make the grading the first paper the same as the last paper almost impossible. And over time, as graders go from paper to paper, they may become tired, they may become frustrated, or they may struggle to consistently apply a standard grading criteria. This can be additionally challenging if you have large class sizes where there's hundreds of students. Another challenge that we hear about is that there can often be different types of graders with different approaches. For example, when you need to delegate marking out across a team of graders, it can be even more prevalent and multiple different people may actually be marking the same question. It makes consistency even more of a challenge as people are naturally prone to bias. And we do often hear that different grader types, and in practice, each grader is bound to interpret things slightly differently and take a different stance, which is why institutions go through the process of moderating work. So taking a random sample to ensure that the criteria has been consistently applied. Grading work can also be very time consuming and lack efficiency. So if there's any teachers in the audience, I'm sure you can relate to this. It's really easy to sit and agonize over what mark to give a student, and what, especially on more open-ended work. And if you want to give meaningful and more actionable feedback, that takes a while. Often this is time that instructors just don't really have. And so they have to either work long additional hours to give good feedback to their students, or the alternative is that the instructor doesn't really have the time to give this level of detailed feedback, and they just give the student a grade. In this case, the student would end up suffering by not knowing what they did wrong or how to fix their mistakes moving forward. And neither situation's particularly ideal. And of course, it can be a logistical nightmare. So back in the day when we had to worry about paper, there was a need to move around work between teams of graders. So work would be delegated, physical scripts would be sent to different people for marking. All of this came with a risk of work being lost or damaged. It was really an endless paper shuffle, which could feel like a bit of a cycle that never ended. And then if we look at the student perspective, this can also be a painful process. So firstly, it can take a long time for them to receive their work back. This makes it difficult for them to incorporate any feedback and to use their critical thinking skills about how to improve. And by the time they receive their feedback, they may already be working on the next assignment, and they could have already completely even forgotten about the previously graded work. Many instructors do spend hours and hours working really hard to give detailed feedback to students, but there are some occasions when students would just receive a grade. And this may happen with something like an exam where it's not necessarily expected that they receive detailed feedback, but it could also happen when the instructor is more pressed for time, they're managing a huge workload, so they don't really have the capacity to provide detailed levels of actionable feedback. And while we obviously understand why this happens, it doesn't really give the students the best tools that they need to be able to improve, and it makes the grading process slightly painful for students. And due to the earlier challenges that we saw that instructors can have with consistency, this impacts the student directly. So they may find that upon receiving their feedback, that they've performed materially worse than a friend or received totally different levels of feedback depending on who graded their assignment and when it was graded. This can be frustrating for students as well. So overall, we know that assessment and grading continues to be a challenge for many instructors. Then we entered 2020 and we saw a whole bunch of additional challenges arise that institutions were having to face. And as we know, in March, COVID-19 became a reality. Institutions prioritised the health of their communities, they closed campuses, cancelled classes, and many countries issued a national lockdown. This led to great national, international debate about cancelling in-person exams and the impact that this would have on the staff delivering those assessments and on students taking them. And people had to think about creative solutions and alternative ways of assessing students to address this immediate challenge. So some turned to online assessments, some introduced new policies, no detriment policies, so that students wouldn't be adversely impacted. And we saw all universities quickly scramble to move teaching online. Some with very small numbers of staff delivering remotely to then almost all of them. And all these new efforts presented us with even more urgent and pressing challenges that impacted everyone at the university in different ways. And looking forward, we still don't know when students can return safely to campuses, as we've seen across many universities a rise in COVID cases, meaning a remote or blended approach is looking likely for the foreseeable future. So if we look at this across the range of stakeholders in an institution, these new challenges led to urgent rethinking about how to deliver assessment during COVID-19 and beyond. And we know assessment is important because it helps us validate and award certificates, degrees. So there had to be some quick conversations about how to move everything online. So for students, this posed additional challenges. So they were disappointed on a personal and social level, but they also wanted to know that their credits still counted, that their degrees would still prove valuable. They had to know how they would get to class. What did the new classroom look like? What new tools did they need to learn to access it? And then when they did show up, how were they even going to be assessed in this new format? There was a lot of uncertainty for students. Instructors were also facing uncertainty, so not just on how to support the students, but also how to shift their traditional or familiar ways of doing things online. They had the pressure of delivering their teaching online, but not just as it exactly was before. They had to think about adapting the content to make it more engaging in that remote format. This meant many staff had to hone and learn new skills in what was already an overwhelming time. And when it came to assessments and everyone was submitting remotely, or there's a blended approach, the challenge was how to collect these submissions, these papers from students when everyone's at home and everyone has different types of work formats and access to technology. And then from an administrative point of view, they had to support a rapid institution-wide shift from the immediate infrastructure challenges to ensuring staff had the right access to hardware. And they had to ensure that staff and students were both equally supported in these uncertain times, from training to even emotional support. So the urgent, almost universal question for institutions across the world this year was, how will we conduct assessments remotely? So they thought about the tools that they had, the tools that could help them address some of these challenges. And for the same reason that many of you are likely here today, they turned to Gradescope to help them navigate some of this uncertainty. So the team believe that grading can be a transformative process for both students and instructors. And we believe that you can really transform grading into learning. And we think that grading should be valuable to students and helping them grow, to instructors by guiding their teaching and curriculum, and also valuable to helping define assessment itself. To do this well and see true benefits at all levels, it should be less time intensive, it should be more consistent, it should be more coordinated. And then at the end, it should be summarized in a meaningful, action-orientated way. So as you can see, the Gradescope team set out to address many of the challenges that we heard about at the beginning of this presentation. The team focused on several key areas to help guide how we built our solutions. And our end goal is always to mitigate the pain and the time associated with the traditional grading, as we saw previously, those common challenges that we see. So to make grading easier, we focus on the following areas. We help digitize the process of assessment. So thinking about things like handwritten work, in-person, in-class tests, in-class work, and making it really easy to move those online. We help bring a grading uniformity, a real consistency to the process and standard by promoting the use of rubrics. We help accelerate the process by integrating artificial intelligence into some aspects of the workflow. And we help make it easier for educators to get performance insights or statistics around how their students are performing and why they're struggling. I think for me, this is one of the most important areas, being able to learn from the grading process so that you can tailor your approach. And finally, Gradescope helps address the range of assessment needs for educators by working directly with them. So whether you're in chemistry, computer science, maths, or any other department, you have a different range of assessment needs. We work with users to make sure that it evolves with their needs. So we're not going to go into great depth here. And if you're interested, you can always reach out to the team to hear more about the detail. But at a high level, to make sure we're all on the same page, here's what we're talking about. So this is a screenshot of the Gradescope interface. So on the left is the student work and a response to the question. So this is the student's response to the question. On the right is the rubric, which can be built as you go, so on the fly, or pre-built. Building the rubric on the fly allows you to, as a marker, to be dynamic so that you see, when you see mistakes, when you see new things coming up, you can be flexible and make the changes to reflect that in your rubric. And to give students feedback on their work, you can add rubric items, apply them. And in this example, you've now told the student they're losing half a point because they're missing the plus C. And you can add as much detail in the rubric as you need. And you only need to write this once, as it's shared across all the papers that you're marking. So it helps mitigate opportunities for unconscious bias. It does this by helping graders focus on the content of an individual answer rather than the student's overall submission or identity. It also helps teams of graders build, maintain, and apply a single grading standard for all students. So this helps address those challenges with consistency that I mentioned previously. And then by reusing rubric feedback as you mark, you save a great amount of time and you're able to provide quality feedback to students. For some type of assignments, you can also use artificial intelligence to make this process even faster. And the way that that works is that we use computer vision to read the student's handwriting. We group them together into similar responses, and then you apply the rubric to the group of answers all at once. So in this example, you can see the system has automatically created 3 different answer groups. I'll just wait for that to start from the beginning. So the work goes into the system. The AI will automatically group those, and basically you provide a mark or a grade to each group rather than the individual submission. So this is saving you even more time and does not compromise on the quality of feedback that you're able to give. So we'll now take a look at the statistics or insights. When you're done with the grading process, you're able to, at a glance, understand how students did on each question on the assessment as a whole. On this question, about 12% of the students got 3 out of 4 marks. But more interestingly, you can look at the detailed rubric and see how frequently each item on the rubric was applied, which helps understand where students got the question right or wrong, which items may need more attention, either at the next lecture or the next time you teach that course. And finally, Gradescope also delivers options for a wide range of assessment types and disciplines. So as you can see here, the breadth of compatible assignment types is wide ranging. So we support paper-based exams, quizzes, homework, to programming assignments and multiple choice. And Gradescope can accommodate assessment preferences in a variety of disciplines, from the humanities to the sciences. But don't just take our word for it. As you can see, a selection of users have tweeted us this year to give their feedback as to how it's helped them. So one tweet notes how Gradescope has made large class grading much easier, and another acknowledges how 2 hours after the class ended, she graded a quiz and provided feedback to the students, so really speeding up that feedback loop. We also hear from another instructor who enjoyed marking through Gradescope and points out the benefits of the dynamic rubrics that allow things to be changed as they mark. So this is really just a taster of what Gradescope can offer. I invite you to create your own account on our website and try it out for yourself, because for the duration of 2020, we've made Gradescope Complete free for instructors. Obviously, if you're interested in using it beyond that, please do get in touch and we can discuss how we make that happen. You just need to, for now, go to the website and hit sign up as an instructor, as you can see on screen, and put your details in. Within 24 hours, your account should be approved and you can get to work testing it, using it within any courses that you've identified. We'll also be hosting weekly workshops, and these are aimed at instructors to help them get started with more practical tips on how to move assessments online. So if you work with any instructors that you feel would benefit from taking a further look at this, please do get in touch and we can share the link to those workshops. And then for anyone that wants to explore it in more detail, if you have any specific questions, don't hesitate to reach out and contact me. My email address is on screen. And now we'll have opportunity to move to any questions that people want to ask live today.
Thank you, Jamie. If you'd like to know more about Gradescope or Turnitin, please feel free to reach out to us or find us at the booth within the Palc conference website under the sponsor tab. If you'd like to ask questions in Greek, Our partner in Greece, Interoptics, also have a booth as well. I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you. Thank you.